How many times have you heard experiences from individuals and families who are struggling with the challenges of aging, caregiving, the unknowns of health, loneliness, financial worry, and just general overwhelm? I spent 10 years working in the aging sector, hearing these same stories of struggle over and over again. And at the root of it all, no one is teaching us how to plan for aging from a holistic perspective. So welcome to the Ageucation Podcast. This is where you will get the aging education you didn't know you needed. My name is Jess Davis. If you are in your 60s or 70s, or you have parents in their 60s, 70s, or 80s, you are in the right place, my friend. We are all aging. We all want to maintain our autonomy and independence as we age. So let's intentionally prepare our families for the needs of our eldest years. Welcome back to episode 5 of the Ageucation Podcast. And today's episode is about communication, specifically the importance of communicating boundaries and expectations surrounding aging within our families. This could be boundaries and expectations between spouses or partners. It could be between aging parent and their adult child, or it could be between two adult children who are together caring for a parent. All of these types of relationships require calm and clear conversation about boundaries and expectations. So in today's situation, I'm going to walk through, the woman I was working with had what she specifically referred to as a difficult and tiring relationship with her daughter. This woman was in her late 70s, and her daughter was beginning to notice the aging needs of her mother increasing. So the daughter was noticing changes and voicing to her mother concerns about her mother's physical abilities, about her declining social schedule compared to what it used to be, and about the need for her to move to a care home soon. And while all of these are valid concerns to voice and to have conversations about within a mother-daughter relationship, the tone behind the concern was not coming from a team-oriented mindset where the mother and daughter are a team in navigating, but ultimately with the mother leading her own age planning decisions. The tone of the conversation and the posture that the daughter was bringing to the conversation was quite demanding, and as if she was telling her mother she knew what was best for her, and she had already made the decision that her mother would be moving into a care home because of her physical abilities and her deteriorating social schedule, and et cetera, et cetera. And the mother had explained to me that this was a long-standing pattern of her daughter as an adult child. The daughter often told the mother what was best for her and made decisions without consulting her mother. And maybe I'll actually pause here in the story to unpack this a little bit and give some more specific examples to age planning of an adult child overstepping on their aging parent. So one example would be an adult child calling a real estate agent and having them do a walkthrough assessment of the aging parent's house because the adult child thinks their parent needs to sell the house and move to a care home. I have heard of that happening far too many times, but it happens. It does happen. Another example is an adult child having a lifeline or a fall alert system installed in their parents' home without consulting them or having a conversation about it first. They just go ahead and book it and have the installation done. I've also heard of someone taking their aging parent out for lunch and then slyly ending up at the optometrist's office because the adult child doesn't want their aging parent to have a driver's license anymore, and basically forces them into an eye assessment that they didn't expect in an attempt for them to lose their license. And again, while all of these concerns from an adult child are valid, and I'm sure in most cases they are rooted in a place of loving concern, but these examples I just gave are not loving actions as a way to voice the concern. They are quite the opposite. They feel scheming and dishonest and disrespectful. And I find that in those types of examples and situations, the adult child truly believes that they are doing what's best for their parent, and they are taking action on what will keep their parents safe. But in those actions, in those kind of misstepped actions, they are deteriorating their relationship and their trust that the parent has with them. And then it ends up crumbling the relationship, and more problems come out of it than solutions and forward productive movement. So those are just a few examples of adult children meaning well and probably believing that they are looking out for their aging parent. But like I said, it creates this deep sense of disrespect and dishonesty between the parent-child relationship. And it can cause the aging parent to feel either A, they need to pull back and retreat from saying anything because they fear upsetting their child or being a burden to their child and damaging the relationship. Or B, the aging parent feels the need to become very defensive and ignore important aging conversations with their adult child because they no longer trust the opinions and decisions of the adult child to be rooted in autonomy for the older adult. So hopefully that helps put that into context a little bit. But to get back to the original situation of the episode that I'm talking about, the woman was feeling like she was having to create boundaries around her relationship with her daughter because the daughter was constantly overstepping. And she had a track record of constantly overstepping, which I won't get into, but it was causing the mother immense stress and overwhelm. And the mother had other adult children who were more than willing to have meaningful conversation and truly actually listen to her. But this specific daughter we're talking about was kind of overpowering, having this overpowering energy on everyone. So the mindset the mother had was that she needed to create boundaries as a way of keeping her daughter out, because the daughter's actions and decisions were causing the mother stress and overwhelm. But guilt was creeping in for the mother because she felt it was mean to create boundaries against her daughter. And I say against in quotation marks. The guilt was becoming shame, and it was preventing her from creating any level of boundary with her daughter. She was just avoiding creating the boundaries that she knew she needed. So with no intentional conversations, no shared awareness, no boundaries, the mother continued to live in a state of feeling unheard and stepped on. And let me tell you, the effects and results that aging has on life makes the aging person very vulnerable to losing their autonomy if they are not someone who is naturally standing up for themselves or feeling respected and confident to make their voice and their wants and opinions known. It is so important for older adults to stand firm in their wants and preferences and wishes, and that means voicing those wants and preferences and wishes in a very calm and constructive conversation. And in this situation, that meant the mother wanting to talk to her daughter about boundaries. But the mother needed a new mindset around what boundaries are. Are you listening to this podcast and feeling like you want more? Like you want to take the next step in learning about age planning and how that could benefit your family? Well, I have the perfect little introduction into my 3 main frameworks that I use to coach families through being proactive and intentional about their aging journey. So come check them out. The Ageucation Mini-Course. The course is made up of 6 videos that are packed with valuable information and framework explanations to give you a strong visual and create a foundation for understanding how to start being proactive and intentional about planning for aging in your family. Visit my website, nestage.ca/mini-course to learn more and dive in. That's nestage.ca/mini-course. You can find the link in the show notes. So boundaries, I'll describe them as an if-then equation. If this happens, then this is my response. And the new mindset I would encourage someone in this type of situation to move towards is seeing boundaries as things you put in place to be in healthy relationships. Healthy boundaries actually keep people in your life. So the old mindset was that boundaries had to keep her daughter out, and that was causing grief and stress for her. The new mindset is that boundaries are a way to keep her daughter in her life with a healthy relationship. She had to change her mindset to reflect boundaries showing respect to both her and her daughter. So I want to say that again. Your mindset must reflect boundaries showing respect to both you and the other person. You cannot set a boundary from a mindset of there being a wall up or pushing the other person out or you hiding from the other person. The mindset has to be that the boundary is respecting both parties so that there is no wall up, so that we're able to have a healthy relationship and both feel heard and respected. So how do you hold respect for both parties? Expectations is the key word that I'm going to use here. Other people need to know your boundaries because an unspoken boundary is an unmet expectation. It's an expectation that you have in your head about another person that they don't even know about. If someone doesn't know your boundary, they can't meet the expectation that you're holding in your head. And an unspoken expectation is a future resentment waiting to happen when they don't meet that expectation. And those 2 things, again, I want to say again, because I think they are such powerful perspectives to understand. Number 1, an unspoken boundary is an unmet expectation. And number 2, an unspoken expectation is a future resentment waiting to happen. So setting boundaries requires communication, not shutting the other person out whom you are creating the boundary for or with. If you don't communicate on how a boundary will respect both parties' needs, then no one will feel better. So the mother needed to clearly tell her daughter how she wanted her daughter to bring up future concerns and how they would talk through them and make decisions together. But with the mother ultimately having the final say, because it's her life, not her daughter having the final say. Because the other thing is, when you set a boundary, the thing you have to understand is you setting a boundary means the other person is losing their power over you because you are gaining autonomy back. And in this situation, the mother telling the daughter, you will no longer make decisions for me or without consulting me, that takes power away from her daughter and it gives the autonomy and the power back to the mother. And that becomes an adjustment for both of them to recognize when that is happening. But in my opinion, it's what's right. Every older adult, every human being deserves to make their own decisions about their aging needs from a place of self-trust and autonomy. So I'm going to wrap up this episode by leaving you with a statement to try, if you find yourself in a situation like this, where at the root of it, someone is trying to take power and autonomy away from the aging parent or the older adult or whoever it is. Whether they realize it or not, they are taking power and autonomy away. That's what they're doing at the root. So what we really need to bring to light in these situations is having everyone understand what the goal is and whether the actions and intentions actually line up with that goal. And what I mean by that is, in like those example situations that I described, if you want your parent to move into a care home because you don't think they should be living in their own home anymore, is you calling a real estate agent and having them come do an assessment of the home without your parent knowing, does that actually align and help your parent move into an older adult or move into a care home? Probably not. We need to stop and think in some of these situations. Does the action I'm about to take align with the goal I'm trying to meet? Does it help reach that goal? Or is it going to put a hurdle up, put a barrier up to reaching that goal? So the statement that I want to leave you with is, help me understand. So as the aging parent, help me understand why you think I need to move to a care home. Help me understand why you think I need a fall detector in my home. Help me understand why you're concerned about me about me not going to Tuesday tennis anymore. Like, if you're in the older adult position and you have adult children or family members coming at you, telling you things that you need to do, even if you don't want to do them, you need to understand why they think that that's what's best for you. Because if you don't understand why they think it's best for you, you can't explain to them why it's not best for you. Like, you need to understand their perspective to be able to get through to them why you're making the decisions you're making as the older adult about your own life. Or the flip perspective to this is being the adult child. So help me understand why you don't want to move to a care home. Help me understand why you don't want a fall detector in your home. Help me understand why you aren't going to Tuesday tennis anymore. Because as the adult child, if you're trying to project on your aging parent what you think is best for them, they're not going to be accepting of it if they don't understand where you're coming from. If you can voice your concern for either their health or their safety or their social life or their whatever their well-being, if you can voice the perspective you're coming from, then they may be more receptive to understanding why that would be important to you, and maybe opening their eyes to, like, oh yeah, maybe that is the better decision for me. But if you're not doing it in a calm and clear way, then it's just two people butting heads with their own opinion that's never been explained. So this help me understand statement can create the calm and clear conversation that is necessary. And that is what we require for intentional and proactive aging conversations that I'm always talking about and harping on. Calm conversations, clear communication. This is what will create a shared understanding and a strong foundation for optimal aging in your family. So I hope that helps. I hope that's a helpful perspective, and I will see you back here next week. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Ageucation Podcast. I have 3 reminders before you go. Number 1, go check out the show notes for any resources or links that I mentioned in this episode that may have piqued your interest. Number 2, please share this episode with a friend whom you think it would bless, because in order for more families to benefit from my age planning resources, I need listeners like you to spread the word. And number 3, I would love to hear from you. Email me with your thoughts on this episode or suggest a topic you'd like to hear on a future episode. Find my email in the show notes. And remember, we're all aging. Aging is the same as living, and it is a privilege to live and to age.